So why are you doing creepy professor cosplay?
It's just one of those things. You put a camera on me, I'm gonna play some. I don't have the. I want to get like one of those big suits, like Stop Making Sense.
Okay. When I think big suit, I think of a zoot suit.
Zoot suits are also very cool. There's a lot to be said for a zoot suit. I don't know if I can pull a zoot suit off though.
There's a scene at the beginning of Spike Lee's movie about wow, his name just flew out of my head. African Muslim. He's American,
Malcolm
but he was
X?
Malcolm X. Thank you. In the famous scene at the beginning of that movie where Denzel Washington is wearing a zoot suit and instantly becomes the coolest dude who's ever lived. Like you put Denzel Washington in a zoot suit, and everybody else is competing for distant second.
The problem is literally everybody can out Pachuco me. There is nobody who cannot out Pachuco. I have 0 Pachuco.
Yeah.
I don't have any. I would look like I was. I mean, say what you will about this. That would look like I was just a kid playing dress up in his dad's stuff. That's just the way it is.
I think I could pull off the suit. There's no way I could pull off the big feather, which is an essential element of the outfit.
That. So, sartorial decisions aside, did you get a chance to read the chapter?
I did read the chapter.
All right, then we got something to talk about.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a good beginning. There was one section where I was very unclear on what was happening, and then a day later, like as I was making coffee or something, it popped into my head. Like, oh, I know what he was doing. So that we would probably want to make that a little clear. It's where she's thinking about the biology of what's happening with people drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes and stuff. It's biologist Jody from her pre-drug addiction days knowledge that she still has in her head that she's running through as she's I get it. When I first read it, I had no idea what that was, but maybe that's just because I'm a dummy.
Well, it doesn't. It's a first draft. Everything about it sucks. That's the job of the first draft.
I mean, it doesn't suck though. I think it did all the stuff we were talking about, and I'm just scrolling through it real quick to make sure I'm not missing any of this stuff. I think the sponsor comes across well, which is nice. I think that character is working well. I like how you gave Jody literally the worst apartment ever.
And she loves it.
Like if Bubbles from The Wire was living there, it would feel appropriate.
Yeah, that's that. But the thing that I was going with that was having the shitty thing and just being so glad to have it.
Right.
I wanted to I kind of want our Jody to love her life.
Yeah.
And to have seen the dark, to have been in the Black Lodge long enough that little things are joyful.
Yeah.
And so that was
and
it's pretty crap.
I mean, that's the great victory for Bubbles, right? Is at the end of the show, his great victory is he's clean and he's living in a unfinished basement, sleeping on a couch in an unfinished basement. But that's a victory.
Yeah, and it's a win.
Yeah,
huge win.
Yeah,
more than he expected.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good start. I have not done a rewrite pass on it.
Okay.
Because I wanted to make sure we talked about it before I did anything, in case you had other things you were thinking you wanted to tweak or add.
I'm pretty comfortable with it as a first draft for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the main things I would change is obviously every first draft for both of us is filled with grammar and spelling errors. But the other thing is just some clarity in a couple of places.
So the clarity in her thinking about. So just so you know, keep you up to date. The thing about where she's thinking about the chemical actions and all that, like 18 years ago, I took a biochemistry class, which is how I know that caffeine reduces the breakdown of cyclic AMP, which makes cyclic AMP build up in your brain, which acts as a second signal protein for something. I don't remember what, but that was the the level of knowledge that I was going for with
Right.
her. And
I don't think there's anything wrong with the scene itself or what it's conveying. I think it's just making sure that the reader understands that that's what's happening there.
okay,
Yeah.
it's a flagging issue more than anything else.
Yeah. It's the content is fine. It's just making sure that the context is a little bit clearer, I think. Or at least clear enough that a dummy like me gets it. Because my first time through, I'm like, what is happening right now? And then a day later, I'm making coffee. I'm like, oh, I know what was happening in that scene. So maybe it's just clarifying it for the 80% of the world that's as dumb as I am.
I'm perfectly comfortable including that 80% into the writing. That seems wise. All right. Well, then I guess the question becomes, what happens next?
Well, we don't want to take too long before we get Jody and Shadow Jody in the room. And by the way, let's just real quickly, are we fine with Jody Feld? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I did Jody because we've been doing Jody, and I did Feld because it was a last name.
Yeah,
I have nothing one way or the other on that one.
Okay.
If you have a different name you prefer,
I mean, we've been calling her Jody since the beginning, but I don't know. There's just the two short names with the D sound in them is bumping on the part of my brain that looks for poetry scans. And I don't.
What would you prefer? Do you have anything you would prefer?
I don't have anything I would prefer. This is just this is random thoughts at this point.
Let's. I mean, there are some questions there to be chewed on. Right now, she is kind of generic white lady.
She is generic white lady right now.
Do we want her to have any background that's deeper than that? Feld is there because it has. I mean, I don't even know what ethnicity Feld would be.
Yeah, I don't know what ethnicity.
Feldman. I would know Feldman.
And Rosenfeld. I know Rosenfeld.
Rosenfeld. I would have an opinion.
Yeah.
Lopez. I would have an opinion. I mean, I don't have any.
Feld is a surname of German origin. It means the field in English.
So, Jody the Field there.
so she's German in this.
Yeah, unless we want to change that. I mean, do we gain anything by changing that? There's no reason not to.
I know. The only thing that bumped me at all was just the duh sound,
Okay.
which is my own weird thing.
Well, but we have. I mean, one of the things we haven't talked about is this a story that happens entirely in Whitelandia, or are there some folks with other backgrounds in here as in the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's nice if the cast is as diverse as the real world is, but I don't have any particular agenda for any of the characters that they need to be one thing or the other. I mean, so the parents are going to be a bit of a presence.
True.
One of the easy ways we can do that is we can have them be a mixed couple,
which would then put Jody into some sort of mixed race situation.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. I do know that. Oh, that's just now I'm suddenly thinking of a friend of mine. So a friend of mine, his dad is white. I don't know, some generic white, and his mom is black. This is a kid I grew up with, and he used to tell me that no one was harder on him than his mom, because her thing was he was not going to wind up like the on the news generic black kid who gets on drugs and goes to jail and all that. He was going to be the kid who, goes to college and becomes a doctor, and like that was like she like there was so much pressure from her side on him.
Mm-hmm.
And it just that popped into my head for Jody that like if that was her parents and her dad, he put a little pressure on her. He was like, I want you to succeed. And her mom was like, you are going to be better than everyone else. Because that was the thing, is his mom would tell him. And I've heard this from other people since then, that like if you're a black kid in America, you got to be better than everybody else to be equal to everybody else, right?
Right.
And that was the story he heard growing up. I don't know. There's something there, but I don't know if we need to do that.
Well, let's.
Yeah.
I don't have a strong opinion on it at this point, but I think it's worth keeping an eye on, especially as we start going into some of the other characters and getting the. I mean, right now we got basically Jody and her sponsor and Hugo, and then a few kind of scattering of people at the coffee shop. None of whom I know are going to be important, particularly, except like Jody.
Yeah, I mean it is a conversation we always have. It is a good conversation to have. The characters that we should at least have some idea is, tech billionaire.
And tech billionaire, I mean that's a
no, but I'm just saying
that's a loaded one.
Tech billionaire,
fixer.
We need a boyfriend.
And we could get into. I mean, there's the opportunity. We could have the Jewish tech billionaire who's looking to control the world, and the black boyfriend who's into drugs and guns, and then
it becomes.
We would not have covered ourselves in glory.
It's true.
So there are ways to do this wrong.
No, tech billionaire needs to be Russian so that we can make him the villain and nobody will care.
Is that where we are now? Is that how we are? Is that where we live?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you get to make fun of evil Russians for free now.
I hate that too. Okay, all right. Let's table that for a moment. But it's something we need to think about moving forward.
I mean, you could make him have grown up in South Africa under apartheid, but then it's a little too close to real life, and we probably should avoid that one.
You kind of start with his emerald mine. Oh no, that's too, ruby mine. Yeah. Now it's a whole different thing.
It's a completely different thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, but the name question does lead into those other questions, so it is something we'll have to figure out at some point.
Well, I mean, just if she is Jody Lopez, then she's somebody else.
Yeah. Well, she's a relative of mine then.
Yes. Yes, she is. If she's the Feld, then I'm probably not. Yeah, I'm not German though. I never had any genetic background going as far into the country of Germany. You did put her like out of field in Wales. There was some Welsh word for field. That'd be mine. But
yeah. All right. Well, but aside from all of that rambling,
mm-hmm.
I don't think we can waste a lot of time before we put Jody and Shadow Jody in the same room. Is what I was building up to before we did our long discussion of race and naming.
That's true. I also think we need to get Evil Billionaire on the line pretty quick too.
Yeah. I
mean, especially if we're talking about a first act that is 9 chapters long.
I think. Okay, so the rhythm of it in my head, and this absolutely could be wrong, but the rhythm of it in my head is we meet Evil Jody and parents in the near future, probably in the next chapter, right?
Okay, maybe.
We meet Professor Farfignugan, although you gave him a new Farragut in this version, but I like Farfignugan.
It was close.
We meet Professor Farfignugan and learn about Evil Tech Billionaire. That is the minute we learn about Evil Tech Billionaire from Professor Farfignugan, then we have an Evil Tech Billionaire POV. Because it is we're learning about these people as Jody's learning about these people. So Jody meets Shadow Jody. Shadow Jody, she asks her about this message she got from Professor Farfignugan, which then leads us to Professor Farfignugan. Professor Farfignugan mentions Evil Tech Billionaire, which then leads us to Evil Tech Billionaire. So it's like as Jody's world expands, the POV in the book expands, if that makes sense.
Okay. The other thing we need to introduce soon as the demon.
Yes. Yep.
So we got a lot of introductory shit going pretty quick here. The version that was bouncing around in my head, and I will again without prejudice. I was thinking, if our Jody has this thing, what does this inspire her to do next? What is the obvious thing for her to do next? And the obvious thing for her to do next in my head is talk to the professor. The other thing we have not said explicitly is what her hit backstory is. We've hinted at it with the thinking of metabolic pathways. We've talked a little bit about her, having been fired by the professor. We know that she's a recovering drug addict. We don't know what she was doing. We don't know what the details of her life were before this. There's a whole bunch of backstory that you and I know, but that the reader coming in isn't going to. A chapter that starts with her going onto campus and talking to this guy, I think, is a way to get a lot of that out. And it might be interesting to do it from Farragut's point of view. There's some things we would get from that, like how our Jody looks different from the one who came and visited.
Yeah.
How she looks different from the one she did. And then once she has been told to fuck back off, or this is clearly a mistake, or I doesn't know what this is, then getting on the phone to Evil Billionaire and saying, something weird is going on. I've had this eerie experience, and I have these papers that relate to what we're doing, and they're really, really good.
So let me give you my counter proposal.
Go.
And we can decide which of them makes more sense. I feel like the version where Jody goes to meet with Professor Farfignugan is like it's skipping a moment. And the reason for that is because she's still a little baffled by this, right? She's still like,
absolutely. She
saw herself in the mirror or in the window. It could be a weird thing. Her sponsor gave her an excuse for that. Like, hey, your brain could do weird shit, right?
Sure.
She's still there. Now she gets this weird message. Yeah, they feel related in weirdness, but you, at this point, she could still write them off as a coincidence, right? At this point, that's still a possibility.
But she could still write the vision in the window off as a mental trick,
right?
Why the voicemail is evidence. I mean, that's something that
but we've all gotten weird voicemails from scammers and that kind of stuff. So like, if you were a person trying to wave away the weirdness in your life, there are things you could say to yourself to go, oh, it's probably just a scammer. It's like there's stuff you could do. What I'm thinking on the other side though is if she calls her parents and says, hey, do you guys don't mind if I come by this weekend? I just need a place to chill and calm my head, and there's some weird stuff happening in my life, and I just want to make sure that I'm hanging, in a safe environment, hanging with people that are safe and stuff. And her dad goes, "What's happening right now? Who is this? What's happening right now?" And then Jody says, "Dad, am I there right now?" And then we get that moment, right?
All right.
Then we get that moment, and then there's no. We've taken all of the hand waving it away out. It's gone now, right? There's no possible way for her to say the call is just a scammer trying to get my credit card number. There's just a weird reflection in the window, it all goes away. Then when we put the two of them in the room together, or even just if she's talking to her dad and gets that confirmation, now the piece of evidence on her phone is a real thing. Now I understand why she goes and meets with Professor Farfignugan. Right? Like I want one more nudge, and I think the Shadow Jody at the parents' house is the final nudge.
Okay, the thing that I'm gonna need to get sold on is the connection between these two things and reaching for her parents. And I think we can do that. It's
Well, for me, okay, I can tell you the version in my head.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
The version in my head is, she is in a unsettled emotional state right now.
Okay.
And she lives alone. She lives in a shitty part of town. She lives in a place where if she decided to go buy a little heroin, it would be a 5-minute trip, right? And nobody would be there to see it happen. What she's thinking,
yeah, there would be,
yeah. What she's thinking is, I need to go to my parents' fancy house in the nice part of town where they will not stop watching me all weekend, because that's just how they are when I'm around, right? And there is zero chance that I am going to slip. And that's what she's looking for. She's looking for a place where she can go, where she can say, I'm feeling a little unsettled right now. Her parents know what that is code for. And they are going to, from the moment she wakes up till the moment she goes to sleep, they are going to keep her busy with conversation and making lunch and putting together a puzzle and, you know, the thing that parents do when they want to keep you occupied. That's what she's looking for is.
All right. So I'm processing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to push back gently.
Yeah, go ahead.
For me, the line between I've had a strange call from my old boss suggesting something strange that he's spoken to me and gotten something from me that I don't understand. So I'm feeling unsettled and I'm going to call my parents, is not as direct and understandable for me as I have had a call from my old boss saying he has seen something, had some interaction I don't know about. I'm going to reach back to him and see what I can find out about what he's talking about, which is just an inversion. This is just an inversion. Yeah. I think we might get something from the inversion.
I think for me, what it is she's treating it like a real thing too quickly. The Jody in my head is like you or I would do that. You or I would have that reaction. But I think Jody is looking for a reason why none of this has actually happened. Jody is looking for, yeah.
But I think the reason, okay, if you are Jody looking for why this isn't really happening, reaching out to Professor F is how you clarify it. It's how you say, I'm sorry.
It's also another pain moment. It's also adding another pain moment. It is reaching out to the point of your greatest personal failure to double check something that's probably just a weird random phone call or weird coincidence or whatever, right? I mean,
he just had Jody in the phone book and hit the wrong one by mistake.
Yeah, I mean that I think for me is the biggest bump for her directly going to him. Is that's sort of like, you know, the greatest romantic failure of your life. You know, some weird stuff happens, and then you get what appears to be a voice message from them that could easily be a butt dial. You probably don't call. You probably just like, you know what? I probably got butt dialed. I'm not going to call back because it's going to take me to the worst moment of my life for the duration of the phone call. Do I need that right now? Right?
Okay. Let me ask one other question. If we do it your way, then we're going to talk to Professor Farfignugan with absolute certainty about what is actually going on. Right?
Well,
we got two Jodys.
We're not.
So by the time we see him,
we're not.
Know.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. And this, as soon as you start saying it, okay. So that's spinning out a new version of this. What you just said. So let me think through it for a second. Because you're right. We don't want to do that. I wholeheartedly agree that that's not what we want to do. But I like that Jody and Shadow Jody's first moment together is in the center of the place that is Shadow Jody's great triumph and our Jody's great failure. So maybe it is, I see my double, I get this weird voice message. I think I'm starting to freak out. I call my parents. I say, look, I'm starting to freak out. Can I just spend the weekend at your house? I just want a weekend away from temptation, right? Where I know I'll be safe. And Dad goes, what's going on right now? Who are you? And Jody says, Dad, am I there right now? And by the way, one thing we'll need to do is make the physical difference between them not quite as pronounced. Because if Scarlett showed up at your house and she was 30 pounds heavier than the Scarlett that left that morning, you would know something was weird, was really wrong.
but we don't know how long it's been since she's seen her parents, though. So, I mean, if Scarlett showed up and she looked a little different, I still would think she was Scarlett. Right. I mean, the idea that...
I'm just saying, depending on her height and frame, 30 pounds is a pretty significant difference. But anyway, all that aside, she hangs up, she races over there, right? And her parents are there, and they're obviously weirded out, right? Because Shadow Jody has left. And they're like, she was here, she was asking questions about us, about herself. We thought it was you. We thought you were using again. She seemed completely out of it. Who was that? Like, now that you're here, we could tell it's obviously not you, but in the moment, we thought it was you, right?
It was you, yeah.
And so now Jody has 3 data points. We get the conversation with the parents. We get more backstory through them. We get more backstory through that moment. And now Jody has 3 data points that are absolutely inescapable. She cannot hand wave this away now, right? That's when she's like, I got to go talk to Professor Farfignugan. She goes there. She has the conversation with him. It's super weird. She walks out. Shadow Jody's waiting for her outside. And that's their first moment together.
I do like having her being on campus.
Right.
I do like that.
And I think the trigger for Shadow Jody, because I'm also thinking of this from Shadow Jody's perspective.
Absolutely.
Right? So here's Shadow Jody's logic. Because we need her to be making logical moves, not just
same.
So
well, and I like that both of their moves are go to mom and dad.
Yeah.
I mean, when they're fucked, they both respond with the same way, which is reach out to mom and dad,
right? So Shadow Jody shows up. She goes to Professor Farfignugan with the papers. She says, "You need to look at this." He's like, do I? Yeah, didn't I teach you 10 years ago? Like, weren't you in this program 10 years ago? What are you doing? Are you back in school or whatever? Shadow Jody's like, okay, that's weird. I haven't been here for 10 years. That is a wild difference from my life. She leaves. Yeah. She asks if anybody knows Jody. They say, oh yeah, she works at Hugo's coffee shop, right? She goes over there. She looks through the weird. She's like, that's me. Jesus, I'm a mess. What happened to me, right? This is Shadow Jody's chain of logic. What happened to me? How did I turn into that? Right? She's like, looks up in the phone book. Hey, my parents still live in the same house. I know where that is. She drives over there. And she's just looking for, how did I turn into that? Right? So her parents here, they're like, hey, what are you doing here? Have you lost a little weight? Look great. That thing, right? And then she's like, hey, so I just talked to Professor Farfignugan. So what's going on with my, she's trying to get them to tell her about their Jody, right?
Right.
Which of course is super weird to them because like, why are you asking us questions about things we would both already know? Like this is like badly written TV at this point. So there's this weird, awkward conversation between the two of them. Real Jody calls. Shadow Jody sees the dad looking at her going,
I got to go now.
And Shadow Jody's like, I'm out. Busted. Right? She punches out of there. Real Jody shows up. Shadow Jody has left. Now Shadow Jody's like, okay, so all the things that I thought were going to be pluses when I came here are minuses, right? I don't have my position at the university, which was my starting point for doing the whole thing. I need to start over from scratch now. And she's trying to figure it out. She's sitting there on the campus outside of Professor Farfignugan's offices, and who walks by but Jody and goes inside. And she's like,
there's some, I like a lot of this. There are a couple of holes in it.
Yeah, of course. I'm spinning this off the top of my head. There's going to be a million holes in it.
So, here's the let me iterate.
Yes.
Shadow Jody appears in our world escaping the Holocaust, escaping the collapse of her reality.
Yep.
She has a plan. She's going to go to her team. She's going to show them what she learned from her reality. She's going to get it to them. She's going to use what they've done and drive the process here, knowing what she knows from her experience. She goes to a professor. He says, "Look, I appreciate that you're getting clean, but I heard that you had gotten clean. I'm glad, but nothing you're saying makes any sense.
Yeah.
I don't know you. You don't work here.
Yeah. You haven't worked here in a decade. Yeah.
You haven't. Yes. The last time I saw you, I fired you from showing up to the lab high, and we don't have a friendship. We aren't friends.
It's got to be worse. It's going to be like, last time you showed up, you were here. I fired you because you stole a very expensive piece of equipment, and I have heard you sold it for heroin.
So you have to leave before I call security. Yeah. She's thinking, I did a what?
Yeah, right, okay. Exactly.
And tries to reach out to some of her reaches out to the guy she was dating in her reality, reaches out to her lab partner from
none of whom have any idea who she is. Yep.
They don't know her. They've never met her. They don't.
Yep.
She's J Random anybody.
Yep.
So she tries to find out what happened to Jodie Fell. She hears, talking around to whoever she's talking to, I don't know, that she's working at this coffee shop. She goes just to look and says, "Oh, fuck. Yeah, no, that's okay." So, in this reality, I'm a loser. Okay. What do I do now?
Right.
I have to re-evaluate everything. I don't know what I'm doing. She does. We've established this is her pathological move. When she's in trouble, she goes back to mom and dad.
Well, so she goes back to mom and dad. The one thing mom and dad would know is who is in her life now, because she doesn't know who's in her life now, and who are her contacts,
and emotionally she's fucked. So
yeah.
if when Jodie is emotionally stirred up, she goes home.
Yep.
Then both Jodies, when they're emotionally stirred up, they're going to go home.
Yep.
It makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Now, our Jodie is doing her thing in the background. She's talking to mom and dad. She's kind of tripping about seeing all of the things back that she has just seen torn apart. So this is an emotional moment for her. And then dad gets that look on his face.
Yep.
He thinks, "Oh shit,
yep.
I'm busted.
Yep.
I'm not ready to have that conversation. I'm gonna leave." So what does she have left? Right now she doesn't have her family. She doesn't have her contacts. She doesn't have anything. This is the part where, if I'm her, the only thing I've got left is talking to me. The only thing I've got left is approaching our Jodie.
Yeah, I think that is where she winds up. But I think that there's one move you can still try, and I think that in the version of my head, she's about to try that move when our Jodie shows up and she goes, "No, I've got a better move. I'm gonna." Because
there's a lot of complexity. What is the other move?
The other move is, okay, I was gonna finesse it. I was gonna take all my stuff to my team. I was gonna say, here's what the things we have to accomplish. I would already have a working team. I would already have credibility in, and I could start from I could run for home from third base, right? And she realizes, no, actually, she's on the starting plate.
You got nothing.
She's got nothing. So at least for me, and maybe this is just a quirk of my personality, I'd be like, okay, so I cannot finesse it. That means I have to brute force it. That means, so how do I brute force this? I go in, I demand Professor Firefinger look at my papers, and I explain to him what is going on, and I try to make him see, right? That's what I got to do now. I got to start from scratch.
Okay.
So I can make him see.
What? So what did she say the first time she showed up?
She gave him the papers. She said, "Hey, I would love the team to look at these. This is related to our research in field X, Y, and Z."
Okay.
So she's starting out as if she's still his lead researcher. They work together. She has a team. She's starting from that place.
So,
right?
her plan is to come in and impersonate herself and not get caught?
Her plan is to come in, impersonate herself long enough that when her real self shows up, she can pull her aside and go, here's what's happening right now. Here's right. That is, what else are you going to do? Right.
Okay. So here's the thing that, I mean, she can't know that that our Jody isn't there. She's going to where she thinks our Jody is.
Yes. And I think obviously that this has to be a plan that includes a lot of improvisation because you don't know where everything is going to be. So I think you go there. If you are there, you pull yourself aside in the bathroom and say, this is super weird and here's what's going on, right?
I don't think you need to do that. I think that's a conversation you can do in front of the team.
Right.
I think if you walk in when Professor Farfignugan is talking to you, you can say, this is great, guys. Look, there's two of us. There's some evidence something weird is going on. I have a paper that explains it.
Yes.
You should read this.
That would be fantastic, right?
So I think that's plan A.
But if you go in and you're not there, you're like, all right, let's get started on this, right? As soon as I show up, I'm gonna.
I don't think so. I think the plan is for me.
Mm-hmm.
My plan is, okay, I know where my double is. I know where the team is. I'm going to go there. They're going to know as soon as they see the two of us together that I'm legit. This is my proof.
Right.
This is my proof that I'm legit. So I'm going to go to my team. If she goes in and our Jody isn't there, she can say, look, just call me. Call me right now. If you're not sure about this, get the other one in from her lab and then we have removed all question about whether this is legit or
all right. I see where you're
going. So she's going in believing that our Jody is there.
Yep.
And that is her evidence that shows
or
she's
at least her foot in the door. It's weird enough that people will listen for a minute, right?
And they'll look at the paper and they'll try to that there's going to be enough of a mystery that they're going to want it explained.
And she's got the device that she used to travel from the other dimension. So
papers.
Yeah.
She's got a lot to go with.
Yeah.
And she goes in.
I agree with all this.
Prepared for this, and instead, what she gets is, "You're a drug addict who I fired a decade ago."
But she's still somehow Farfignugan winds up with the papers.
And she manages to say, "Please just look at the papers.
I got yeah. No, I'm following all this. This is great. Yeah, that's exactly right.
She's out going, oh fuck, my okay. Plan A was that they don't know who I am. I'm gonna go talk to Dave. Dave doesn't know who I am. I'm gonna go talk to Michaela. Michaela doesn't know who I am.
Right.
Oh, myself here fucked everything up.
Is the other me dead? Like, what happened to them?
And
yeah.
And I don't know how she finds the coffee house yet. We'll need to work that out. But she goes in. I think
that's the easiest thing too. I don't think we have to explain that. That's super easy. Right?
I don't think that's hard.
I mean, she can look herself up in the phone book, find her address, her physical address, right? Go there, talk to some people, say, "Where do I work?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, you work over at Hugo's coffee shop." I mean,
and then or Farfignugan can know.
There's a million ways for her to know that. I think we spend zero time explaining that. Yeah.
Yes. She goes. She looks. She says, "Oh, I'm a loser.
Yeah.
Fuck. What do I do now?" And then fucks off to mom and dad because she's lost.
Yep. Well, and I think it's yes. She fucks off to mom and dad because she's lost. And in the course of looking Jody up in the phone book, she finds her parents and goes, "Oh, they live at the same address they lived in my reality. I mean, that's a touchstone. That's nice, right?" And
that, I mean, she doesn't even need to look it up. She doesn't need to.
No. But what I'm saying is that's a nice moment of, oh, here's one thing that's the same.
Here's something that existed long enough.
Yeah.
That I have a root here. I have one root.
I have one root.
It's my old room.
Yeah.
Back at mom and dad's. Yeah. That's where I'm going.
And Shadow Jody is nothing if not relentlessly analytical. So
right.
So I mean, obviously there is the emotional person that our Jody became in the course of her addiction, is buried inside of Shadow Jody, but Shadow Jody holds that thing down and chains it down in the basement, right?
And Shadow Jody's whole, we talked about her way of moving through the world is fix it, fix it, fix
Yes,
it, fix it,
exactly.
fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it.
So I think it has to be. I think Shadow Jody would never admit she's going to see her parents for comfort. I think she tells herself, "I will go get a clue. I will go to my parents' house. They will know things about me. They will know who my new contacts are, and I can start from there." But what she's really looking for is, I just need to meet anybody who knows who I am.
Well, and I'm going to need someplace I can eat.
Yeah.
And I'm going to need someplace I can sleep.
Yeah, and maybe Dad will loan me a few $100.
And yeah, I mean, I'm here, and what I have is a little device that will take me back to the Screaming Hells, and some money that might spend here.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably. I mean, I got a credit card that's not going to work,
right?
And some cash, and I've got no place to sleep tonight. And
yeah, and of course, for the parents, when Jody shows up looking skinnier than usual and asking for money, that's not a good sign.
That's like, right. Oh, honey, why don't you sit down and stay here for the weekend?
Yeah, exactly.
So we can, keep an eye on you.
Yeah,
see, that makes sense.
Okay, so
the question
that whole thing works. So the only moment we need. Sorry, I just stepped on you there. You're probably about to ask the same question I was about to ask, which is what puts them both on campus when Jody goes there to meet with Professor Farfig?
Well, there's two ways to do it. One of them is we have them loop back to Professor Farfig.
Yeah. Well, I understand why our Jody is going to Professor Farfig-Nugent.
Yeah, the other Shadow Jody is not clear. The other version of this is that Jody reaches out to Professor Farfig-Nugent before coming to the parents, and we do the meeting at the parents' house. It's not as pretty.
I don't like it nearly as much. And this is rule of cool stuff. This is not for logic. Yeah. This is Jody standing in the shadow of her greatest failure. Shadow Jody standing in the shadow of her greatest triumph. They're in this, right outside the neurological research lab where, they both used to work. And that, I just want that moment. Like, it's surrounded by all of the things that are the wild difference in the two of their lives, right? And have that moment.
Okay.
And have at least the beginning of the conversation there, right in front of the lab.
So let's roll back to Mom and Dad's house.
Yeah.
I'm Shadow Jody. I know I just got made.
Yeah, I'm going to GTFO.
And I panic.
Yep.
I mean, for that to work. If she's analytical, what does she think?
Well,
Jody is coming over.
To her surprise, Dad was unwilling to give her money, so she still doesn't have any money.
Right.
So she's like, at every step, her plan has failed. Her college contacts don't work. Her her old boyfriend doesn't work. Even her parents are acting weird. I'm sure Shadow Jody grew up in a world where if she ever went to Dad's house and say, "Hey, Dad, can I borrow a couple $100 from you?" He just immediately pulled out his wallet and handed it to her, right? Like, there was never a question. There was never even an issue. And now she's in a world where she goes, "Hey, Dad, can I borrow a couple $100?" And he starts acting real weird and cagey around her and like hiding his wallet behind his back. And Mom is saying, "Hey, you should stay here now," and putting her body in front of the door. And Shadow Jody's like, what the fuck is happening right now, right?
Well, Shadow Jody knows that she's a loser. She's going to put those two together.
Yeah.
I'm
No, but I'm saying it is where we're headed. She leaves Mom and Dad's. She has none of the things she had hoped to get. Mom and Dad have not told her enough about her own life because they consider the questions super weird, and they're acting very strange when she's asking them. So she didn't get any of the information she needed. Dad wouldn't give her any money. She could barely get out. Mom almost wouldn't let her out the door, right? Like, so she's in this place now where she's like gonna run out of money. She has no resources. She has no access to anything. The only thing left to her, as you said, which I totally agree with, is I got to go talk to myself. I'm the only one left that I know I can talk to, right? So the question becomes, where do I do that? If I go into the coffee shop, it's going to be a scene. It's going to be a scene, right? If I go bang on her door in that shitty part of town, I don't know how that's going to go. If I, right?
Yeah. I'm. Go ahead. I've got a pitch, but go ahead and finish it.
I mean, the other version. Well, I mean, we should listen to your pitch, but the other version of this is if she's just, I'm going to talk to her the next chance I get, and so she's sitting on the bench outside of across the street from Hugo's, right, waiting for Jody to show up because she knows she'll be there at some point, right? And we've already established that Hugo's is right across the street from the university. She's sitting there. She sees Jody show up, and instead of going to the coffee shop, she heads into the campus. So she follows her.
I think we're coming to a very similar place.
Okay.
I don't think she follows her from campus, though. I think she follows her from mom and dad's.
So she hangs out outside mom and dad's and follows her from there?
I think.
Does Shadow Jody have a car?
Well, no. But that's why she's not actually having the conversation with her. Does our Jody? I don't know.
Well, no, our Jody has the electric bike.
So our Jody has an electric bike.
So how is Shadow Jody following her? Is my question.
I don't know that yet.
Okay.
Here's what I mean, how does Shadow Jody move in this world at all? I don't know that. How does she get to mom and dad's? I don't know that. But I'm trying to the part where Shadow Jody freaks out and runs is the part that feels unmotivated. She freaks out, she runs, she goes someplace, she calms down, and then she happens to show back up where we want her to for dramatic effect. Feels convenient. If she's following Jody, I understand.
I don't know about freaks out and runs. I think she knows she has to get out of parents' house or they're going to call the police.
Okay, why are they going to call the police?
Because the minute real Jody shows up, Dad is going to call the cops. Dad is a lawyer. Dad is like, okay, there are two versions of my daughter standing in my house. Something weird is going on. I'm an officer of the court. My first move is I call the police and let the police straighten this out, right? Because
I'm not sure that's true.
He's not going to feel any parental need to protect Shadow Jody. He's going to be like, I got my Jody right here. Like, well, who are you? This person who looks like my daughter is pretending to be her.
I think they're going to hear her out. I think that I don't know why they refuse to hear Shadow Jody's story. Shadow Jody's there to tell the story. She's come here to tell the story. She's trying to find someone to tell the story to.
I find that very unbelievable. So if I was home and somebody who looked a lot like, but not exactly like my daughter showed up, and okay, that's a little weird, but people change their hair, whatever. It can
okay.
change. And then somebody who sounds like my daughter calls me on the phone, and I'm like, this is weird. Something weird is going on. And then my daughter, who I absolutely recognize without a shadow of a doubt is my daughter because she looks exactly like the last time I saw her, comes in and goes, "That's not me." My first thing to do is call the police while they're both there.
My first thing to do is, who the fuck are you? That's it. I'm not calling 911. I'm pointing a finger at this lady. I'm saying, who the fuck are you? What are you doing here? And then she answers me.
Yeah.
Now maybe when she answers me, then I think, oh, she's an insane person. I call the police. But the thing was like, oh, don't speak. I'm going to call the police and have another party come in here.
Well, no, you might. You might, once you have called the police and said there's something weird happening at my house, then you might say the police are on their way. Who are you? What the fuck are you doing here? Like, what's happening? But yeah. I think you're misreading this one, dude. Because okay, so first of all, he's a lawyer. Lawyers always call the cops. It's their first move, right?
I've talked to more defense attorneys than you have. Maybe the defense attorneys I know, they don't necessarily do that first. But okay, let's say he's a DA. He does that first.
Well, whenever there's a situation of potential legal murk, like just let somebody else sort it out. The other thing is, you're talking about your daughter who is incredibly at risk in your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one who has just in the last couple of years gotten clean after nearly a decade of flushing her life down the toilet, who you think of as she's glass, right? Any little nudge and she's going to fall off the shelf into 1,000 pieces. And I don't know if we're going to be able to put her back together a second time. No matter what story, no matter what story this other Jody has, protecting your daughter from whatever this person is, because your reaction isn't going to be like, this must be another version of my daughter from another dimension. Your reaction is going to be, this person is trying to take advantage of my fragile daughter. This person is trying to insert themselves into her life in some way. And I need to make sure that doesn't happen.
And yeah, I agree with that. But we have different instincts about calling in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Shadow Jody. I'm there. I think Dad's going to call the cops.
Yeah. And all we need is for. Go ahead.
We could even have him starting to call the cops. We could have him hang up with our Jody and pick up and just dial 911.
Yeah.
I mean, we could. I don't know if that's a thing. Shadow Jody fucks off. I'm trying to have every step that she makes feel motivated. I'm trying to keep the coincidence to a minimum. And if she knows Jody is coming and she can follow Jody from here somehow, then I understand how she winds up on campus with Jody. If she just happens to be at the right place and sees Jody walk by coincidentally, it's not as good.
Well, it's less coincidence if she's actually waiting for Jody, right? If she's sitting there watching the coffee shop waiting for Jody to show up, and the coffee shop is right across the street from the campus, and Jody does show up, and Shadow Jody stands up to walk to her, and instead of walking into the coffee shop, she heads into the campus, which is a surprise, and Jody follows her, then I don't think there's much coincidence there.
It's just the coincidence there is that Jody's stopping by work before she goes to talk to Professor F.
She's not stopping by work.
Well, she is stopping by work. She's going by work in order to get there.
Yes.
Because that's what we're seeing.
Well, and in the very first chapter, we established that work is right across the campus from where she used, or right across the street from the campus where she used to go to school, right?
No, I don't think we established that. We would need to change that in the chapter. The coffee shop is a little bit, it's closer to the community college.
Oh, okay.
And farther away from.
Yeah, maybe I'm misremembering that then. Okay.
So, I mean, we can change that.
No, then that's, yeah.
I just want to, yeah. I'm struggling to make all of the steps for Shadow Jody.
I'm fine with Jody following. I'm fine with Shadow Jody following Jody, and I think there's a one line fix to that, which is, thank God they invented the whatever device.
Yeah, we'll find that one.
But yes. I mean, if when Jody and Shadow Jody are together, and Shadow Jody is driving, a red Toyota Tercel, and Jody goes, "Hey, that's Robbie's car," and Shadow Jody goes, "Yeah, he always left the key, in that spot under the front bumper," and so that's how she got a car. She went to a place where she knew a friend of hers from her world always kept their key, hidden behind the front bumper, and went and got it and just stole Robbie's car. Then that I think then it's okay. Then Shadow Jody has a car. That's how she's been getting around. That's a simple solve, and it's explainable that both of them know about Robbie. Both of them know that he has a red Tercel. Both of them know where he keeps his key.
And it explains how Shadow Jody got out to Mom and Dad's.
Exactly.
She borrowed Robbie's car.
Yeah, she's like, and she could even say, like, I'm not going to keep it. I just needed it for a couple of days. Robbie won't care. And Jody goes, no, I think he's going to care.
He's going to care. Actually, he's going to care.
He thinks I've already sold it.
Like, Robbie always had a thing for me. Yeah, you don't want to lean on that.
Yeah, so
there was some shit you missed.
Then that's all okay. Then okay. If Shadow Jody parks the Tercel a little further down the street in a dark spot where there's no street light and waits for Jody to show up.
Because she knows Jody's coming. She knows Jody is coming there, and she's just gonna and she needs to talk to Jody. Jody is coming here, but she needs to not do it with other people around. Then she just stays quiet, waits. Jody comes out, gets on her scooter, heads toward campus. He follows her to campus.
Yeah. And so she sees her go in. She was waiting outside. When she comes out, they have the confrontation. That's all fine. And we don't even really need to see any of that stuff. We just need to know that that's what happened. Because then, she's like,
it just needs to make sense.
Yeah. If she, then you have the moment where she's like, come with me. I've got a car. They go over and Jody goes, wait, that's Robbie's Tercel. And she's like, yeah, well, he always kept his key behind the bumper and I needed to borrow it. Then you
like, oh, you should
not have done that. If Robbie knows that you're the one who took it, he's already called the cops. He thinks I've sold it.
Yeah, let's just go get a cup of coffee over here on foot. Just leave the car.
Leave the car there. The cops are already looking for it. I guarantee you.
Yeah, don't. We have no.
Yeah. That's fine. Then. I think that's a nice moment. I think it gives them some nice backstory. It shows the friction point between where their worlds are the same enough that Shadow Jody is doing things and different enough that the things she's doing are going to have wildly different outcomes than she expected. Yeah.
And do we let our Jody talk to Professor F before the confrontation?
I think we have to. I think following that, Professor F calls
evil billionaire, and then we have the evil billionaire chapter, and that winds up. Yeah.
So that all tracks for me, and then following that chapter, we've got evil billionaire's POV, right?
Yeah,
that all tracks for me. That makes sense to me. And what I like about it is that Shadow Jody keeps making what she thinks are logical moves. And at every step, she is stymied. And this is the growing frustration of, Jesus Christ, how badly did you fuck up our life? Like literally everything that should be working is broken, and you seem to be the focus of everything that's broken. What were you doing for the last 10 years?
And how could I have fucked up this way?
How could I have gone this wrong?
How could my life have gone this wrong?
Yep.
And I have hell at my back.
Yep.
And I'm so fucking frustrated that you fucked this up for me.
Yeah, and there is a lovely you've seen Heat, right?
Yeah.
The De Niro Pacino scene in the diner where they're sitting there drinking coffee and talking about stuff. There's a lovely Heat scene between the two of them, sitting at the shitty Greasy Spoon diner, drinking coffee and eating muffins, and all of this coming out, right? Yep. Between the two of them, with Shadow Jody being like, what the fuck have you done to us?
Yeah.
Once we get past the point of, here's why there is an us.
Yeah. And here, give me your pen. Let's just compare fingerprints. Look, they're the same. No, really. Right. And at some point, there's like a 500-word weird section that is the demon coming into the world.
Yeah. Yep.
Just a little in the background of the whatever it is hunting her.
Yep.
Okay. So chapter 2, from our Jody's perspective, is, I'm thinking a little background, like a little bit of exposition background, who Professor F was to her, why she doesn't want to reach out to him, her emotional life, just leading up to and explicating the call home.
Yeah.
The call home, Dad.
Well, I like that moment, because the moment really is, I have two painful things I could do. I could call Professor Farfignugan. That's gonna be rough. Last time I saw him, he was firing me for stealing in a microscope, and that's not gonna be pleasant. Or I could call my parents, who are going to be excessively welcoming and obsequious and worried and trying to help me, and that's almost as bad. But that's the one but not quite. But not quite.
I'm gonna do one of these two, and that's the one that sucks less.
That sucks less. Oh, however, I also think in the back of her head has to be, this is all some really weird shit, and I think I need to spend the weekend someplace where
I need to, yeah. I'm not going to a fucking meeting. They smoke the whole time, but I gotta go someplace.
And if I just need to be locked in a room and fawned over,
I would rather be at their place.
I'd rather be at their place. Yeah.
And then the weird happens. She gets there. The cops are there. I mean, if we're doing your version, the cops are there. She shows up. Dad says, they say, "Is this her?" She says, "No, that's not her. That's."
Yep.
And it's like, okay, what the fuck happened? You have someone impersonating.
Yeah. Yeah, they showed up here. They tried to pretend they were you. I don't know what their story was. They tried to ask me for money, because all of it fits in with a con job, right?
Right. And it's like, so what honey, can you tell me anything about, is there something you want to tell me?
Right.
Like, I'm sure there's something, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So
right. So we get the cops off the stage very, very quickly, right?
Have a conversation with mom and dad where they're saying, "Are you in trouble? Are you in trouble with somebody? Because somebody came here really plausibly, really doing a very good job impersonating you and asking for money.
Do you owe someone money?
Do you owe somebody money? Is this a thing?" And her going, "I gotta go." Okay. This was going to be the painful thing that I did, but they're fucking with my family. Yep. They're fucking with me. The only lead I have on this is to go talk to Professor F. I got to.
Yep.
And heading for campus.
Yep. And I think the thing you just said is a nice moment, because I think the moment where Jody goes from weirded out and worried and feeling like, oh no, is this going to trigger me to do some, go back to my addiction or whatever. The moment that she's like, oh, they're fucking with my family, that just turns into anger. Like the fear and the weirdness and the, oh no, maybe I'll use again, goes away and is replaced with, I'm going to find this person and I'm going to beat them with a hammer.
Yeah. Now I'm going to go, whatever this is, I'm going to find her and I'm going to fuck her up.
Yeah. That's the click. It clicks over to that. And then she's like, all right, well, I'm going to go find out from Professor Fahrvergnügen who this person is, what she's up to. Because now meeting with Professor Fahrvergnügen isn't about her pain. It is about finding the other person and transferring the pain to her.
Yeah. I understand that you don't like me. I understand why you don't like me. I have no interest in renewing our relationship. Yep. But what fucking papers and who gave them to you? And what did she say?
Was there an address or phone number on those papers?
How was she going to reach out to you later? I need to know everything because I got some business I got to go take care of.
Because this is our first opportunity to show we need this version of Jody. This is the version of Jody that the story needs. So this is our first opportunity to show the version of Jody who, when threatened, balls up her fists and wades into the fray.
It says, "Oh, here's my fucking teeth. Oh, are we going to fight? Oh, I guess we're going to fight then."
Yeah, we need to see that.
And we need the version of Jody who has. I think that folks who have gotten through hardcore addiction, they got pretty strong spines.
Oh yeah,
they got some teeth.
I don't think you make it out of that without growing some claws, right?
Right. So this is the part where she's like, "Oh, I got a thing I got to do."
And if she lived on the street for half a dozen years,
anytime at all.
Yeah, you got to be ready to, there's going to be moments where somebody tries to back you into a corner and you got to be willing to take out their knees to get away, right? And that is a difference between her and Shadow. Shadow has never been in a fight in her life. Wouldn't even know how to make a fist. Our Jody knows which objects make good stabbing weapons.
And so she gets the story from Professor Fahrvergnügen. We probably have a shift of perspective for a little bit as soon as she leaves, where we're still in Professor F's point of view or with him, and have him having him reach out to Evil Billionaire so that we know that it's happening. We don't show the whole conversation. We don't follow that.
And
But
then
we put that off.
and then when we come to Jody,
there,
this is our first Shadow Jody moment. This is our first Shadow Jody POV. Shadow Jody's waiting outside. Yeah. Jody comes out, comes straight at her, balled up fists. And now it is, how do I keep this person who is technically me from killing me before I can get my story out? Wait. No, wait. Because that is also a reaction Shadow Jody would never expect. Shadow Jody hasn't been in a fight. She doesn't know about fighting. Like, she's thinking Jody will come out and be like, oh my God, it's me. That's so weird. And now we're going to explain to each other what's going on. She does not expect Jody comes out, gives her a look, balls up her fists, comes at her, and she's like, I think she's going to hit me. Like, she's going to punch me. What is happening right now?
And the answer to that is she tells the childhood secret she never told anyone.
Right.
She says, okay.
As she's backing up out of fist range. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that time that you actually killed the fish and you didn't ever tell anybody? I know how you killed the fish and you didn't tell anybody about.
Yep.
Don't hit me. Listen to me first.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, well, the action that plays out in my head is Shadow Jody backing up and trying to, because she doesn't understand what's happening, right? Because this is not all the scenarios she had built in her head of how this confrontation would happen. They're all gone now, because now it's turned into she's going to punch me in the face, right? And you're backing up, you're trying to think of what to say. Your foot hits the step, you fall over on your butt. You're like, and Jody's like looming over your, fists at her side, saying, "Start talking, or I'm going to curb stomp you on that step." And then Shadow Jody in the moment comes up with what you're saying with the,
yeah.
Do you remember our fish, Stanley? Remember, like, Mom and Dad thought he died because we overfed him, and we never told her that we took him out of the thing, and we were petting him, and then he stopped breathing, and then we put him back in the bowl, and he didn't come back to life. And we pretended that Mom and Dad were right, that they had overfed him, and that's why Stanley died. And then
yeah. And I don't even think that our Jody is saying start talking. I think she's saying, come near my family again, and I'm going to put you in the fucking ground. And
yeah,
and I'm going to make sure you remember me. And that's it's. I don't think there's any invitation to talk. I think that's
no, that's fine. I like that version too. I like the backing up, foot hitting the step, falling over in your back. Now you've got somebody over you, getting ready to pound you into the steps.
Getting ready to, maybe she kicks you in the ribs a couple of times, and then
I don't think she actually hits her yet, but she's just about to. Shadow Jody knows she's just about to get pounded into those steps, and burbles out the story about whatever, Stanley the fish or whatever it is, and
the Stanley equivalent,
and then Jody takes one step back, and she knows, okay, I'm out of immediate threat, and then we can cut to the greasy spoon,
and then we cut. That's a good cut.
Yep,
that's a good cut.
Yeah, no, that scene is very clear in my head, and I love that. Okay. The thing that I love about it is we see the Jody with teeth, which we need. We'll need that later,
absolutely,
and we see Shadow Jody's failure is she has planned it all out in her head. She has a flow chart in her head of how the interaction will go, and she's already planned out all of the things. And then our Jody shows up and rips the flow chart in half and throws it on the ground and stomps on it. And she's like, "Oh, I have no idea what to do now."
I don't have any way to get back to that part of the dialogue tree. Hold on.
Yeah, and that is.
I will roll deception.
Those moments, right? Exactly. Let me make my deception roll because our Jody has made an intimidation roll and got a natural 20.
Yes, and I have fallen over backwards. So
I think whenever we can have those moments, those are important moments for our story. The important moments for our story are anytime one of the Jodies expects the other Jody to do X because that's what she would have done. And it fails because, wow, are they not the same person anymore?
Then we're watching Counterpoint.
Right, exactly. Because it is two people with a shared history up to a point. And then they are completely
and
different people after that. And it's not even just that their histories are different after that. It is who they are as people is completely different. You know,
has become
different. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and
I find that plausible.
We need to be on the lookout for those as we go. Those moments where, you know, Shadow Jody goes, "Oh, well, we should do this," and our Jody's like, "I would never have even considered doing that. What are you talking about?" But it's that divergent point.
Yeah. Well, what do we need? Guns. Well, how do we get guns? That's the easy.
No. I call Robbie. You know, the guy whose car you stole. Yeah. Anyway, it's not Robbie, but it's I
know.
I call Fred,
but
who's Fred?
And you don't know him.
Yeah.
It's okay. And there are so many jokes that are going to come.
Yeah.
Like when we go back to the creepy boyfriend, he's gonna be like, "Oh, twins." Oh,
yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, that's
there
coming.
Absolutely,
that's so much of it.
Absolutely, the moment that creepy boyfriend tries to put that deal together. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's gonna try to put that deal together, and when it fails, he's gonna try to put something together with Shadow Jody.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when. Yeah. And our Jody's not gonna have that. That's a.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun, but we'll get there. That's not yet. Okay. Do we feel solid enough about that I should do a draft?
What I think we should do, and I'm prepared to be wrong, but what I think is actually a better use of writing time for the next week is maybe putting a really rough outline of the next 4 chapters or next 3 chapters together, because they're much more interconnected than, like, I think we need to understand where they're all going in order to write any of them.
I don't disagree.
So like, we got the next sequence is Jody considers calling Professor Farvanugan. That feels like touching a hot iron. She's not ready to do that yet. But it brings up a lot of painful feelings, and when all the painful feelings comes up, she's like, "You know what? I'm gonna call mom and dad. I need a place to go for a weekend. I just need to make sure I'm in a safe place for a weekend. Mom and dad will lock the door on me. I know that, so I'm not in any danger there. Well, let's try that." Calls mom and dad. Has the super weird moment. The dad, am I there right now?
Mm-hmm.
And then is going to race over there to try to confront
everything. Yeah. All the stuff that we went through on that.
So that, and then from there we go to, I'm just trying to make sure I have it linearly mapped out in my head. From there we go to, all right, this bitch is fucking with my life. I need to track her down. I know she talked to Professor Farvanugan because I have the voicemail from him. He'll have some contact information for her. I'm going to go to him. I'm going to get the contact information. I'm going to find her. I'm going to beat her into, a marshmallow.
I'm going to fix this motherfucker. Yeah. I'm going to, whatever this problem is, I'm about
to take care of that. Then we have the moment with Professor Farvanugan. Give me some contact info. When we cut as she leaves, then we go into his POV, or maybe we were in his POV for that whole interaction, right? That, as you said, yeah, you're right.
Possible.
Yeah, that's right. We can be in Professor Farvanugan. She shows up. She's going, I need contact info. He's like, I don't understand what's happening right now. And then when she leaves, he actually does kind of have an inkling what's happening now because of the weird shit that they're working on.
And the papers.
And he calls Evil Tech Billionaire and goes, there's some shit going on here. I think we may have, and we can even have him know more. Like, he could say, I believe we've had some leakage, and like a term like that we're like, we don't know what that is yet as the reader, but clearly it's a term he knows and Evil Tech Billionaire knows, right? I think we're seeing some leakage start, right? And we're like, ooh, intriguing, right? And then we cut outside to Shadow Jody for the first time, where Jody, she's like, I have a tech tree mapped out in my head, or a conversation tree, and I'm going to run through it, and I'm going to convince Jody, oh shit, she's about to punch me in the face, and now I'm laying on my back, and she's standing over me, getting ready to kick my ribs in, and I burble out the thing, cut to, we're in the coffee shop, and I'm having to explain what's going on, right? Is that all of the things we mapped out so far?
Maybe. That's, I'm not,
no,
if,
no, we cut to Tech Billionaire.
I think we cut to Tech Billionaire.
You're right. I missed that.
And we haven't talked about what that looks like yet. But I think I think there's a Tech Billionaire section.
I think there is a fantastic Tech Billionaire section. There is. We cut to Tech Billionaire. He's talking to Fixer. He's saying, we may have a problem in, I don't remember where we set this, New Mexico or whatever. We have a problem in New Mexico. I need you to take a team down there and find out what's going on, figure it out. Here's the information. Go get started. Fixer leaves. He turns around. He goes over to his vault. He goes through a crazy amount of things. We see all the things he has to go through to get into the vault. He walks into the vault. We see the really weird
paper,
bare metal room with the table, the chair, and the piece of paper. And he goes and he sits down and he looks at it and he goes, help me understand. Something has changed. Help me understand what's changed. And then we're out. Right? And seeing the page covered in all sorts of mathematical equations and the way they seem to move and shift as he looks at them and the way he gets new insights from them that he didn't have before.
And the high
that he's getting from it. Then cut to Jody and Shadow Jody in the coffee shop. Right? I think that's great. No, that's great.
Yeah,
I think that's a fantastic edit. And I'm glad you made me remember that because I think it would have been a tragedy to miss it. And I was about to just skip right past it, and I would have fucked that up.
So let's put that out in an outline form.
Yeah. And what is that? Like 2-3 chapters?
I think that's at least
two. Yeah,
minimum.
Agreed. It's at least 2. So let's outline it and figure out how much space it's going to take, and we can decide how many chapters it is. And start from there.
Good. All right.
Is that enough for you to get started with just outlining the thing?
Oh okay. Yeah. No, I know what it looks like.
So you start that, and I will do a pass on one and send it back to you.
I'll do the outline. Yep. We'll meet back up next week and build it from there.
Yeah. Okay. A couple things we should decide. And I'll put some thought into names and stuff. We can talk about it next week if we want.
Yeah.
And also, just sort of this sort of, I don't want to call it the diversity question, but I want to call it like just sort of who all of these people are at a more physical level. just so we can have some clear physicality in our mind for description and stuff. I'll put some thought into that, and we can have that conversation next week. Because I think that is going to come up when we meet the parents. We need to know who the parents were.
Right?
When
we meet Professor F, when we meet the Tech Billionaire, we're going to need to have
some stuff. Wow, you know what? For some reason, like when we were thinking about it, the Fixer in my head. I've been watching a lot of Japanese movies and stuff lately. The Fixer in my head just turned into a Japanese guy. I don't know why. He just did. Like he just totally turned into a Japanese guy. I'm trying to remember the actor, that specific actor that I'm thinking of. That he is like immediately he was that guy. He's been in a bunch of stuff that I've seen recently, and I'm like, I love that guy, and I would love to put that guy in something I work on. And so I'll just write him. I'll just write him into a book.
Absolutely.
I'll by next week I'll let you know who the actor I'm thinking of is as a visual. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.